Here comes the head coach of the Dubs, sponsored by Xfinity. The Xfinity 10G network is made for streaming live sports, which means it's the network you can rely on in the biggest moments. The Xfinity 10G network, the best way to stream live sports, and presented by Great Clips. In sports, success is about team effort, and the same is true for your hair, especially if you have some. Wow. Great Clips. Wow. It's going to be great. That was not meant to be personal.
Too soon.
It wasn't. There are a lot of people out there who are follically challenged. Steve Kerr is not one of them, and he joins us now live on Willard and Dibs. Hello, Coach. How are you?
I'm good. How you guys doing?
We're doing good. I don't know if you heard what Dibs was just saying a minute ago, but do you kind of chuckle at what we think has been a narrative that's been kind of hung around your neck the last few years, that you don't necessarily always feel comfortable playing young players, but here you are out of the gate giving some real minutes to some very young players?
Yeah, I mean, I don't worry too much about any of that. Every year is different, and every year I just try to play the guys who I think are going to help us win. And you know, we got some young guys this year that are doing that. You know, both Brandon and Trace are really advanced for rookies, and then you've got J.K. and Moses, who are both in their third years, but have really developed and come along. So it's really fun. It's fun seeing these young guys play well.
Fun game last night, Steve, and I don't want to get into the idea of whether or not it was a moral victory or not. We've spent most of the day debating that phrase, but what are some of the positives you take out of last night, even though you came up short against Denver?
I think the positives are really in the big picture. You know, 7 of our first 9 games being on the road, and coming out of that at 6-3, and with a much more favorable schedule coming up. I think 20 of our next 26 or something like that are at home. So, you know, big picture wise, really good start. And even in the losses, including last night's, you know, we're right there, and feels like our defense is giving us a chance every night. And I think we're going to get a lot better offensively. So I like where we are, but you know, obviously you sort of take it game by game, week by week, and you know, you keep going. But I do like this team.
Steve, I'll ask, was that a moral victory? Like how would you describe the mood on the way home?
Nobody on this team believes in moral victories, for sure. I mean, but I think what I just said is really kind of the mood of the team, that overall, if you look at our body of work now over 9 games, we're in a good spot. And so that's the main thing. We expect to win every game, and we had our chances last night. Kind of disappointed that we didn't close it out, but all in all, you know, we're in a good spot, and hopefully getting better every week. And you know, I'll let you guys determine whether it's a moral victory or not.
Okay, yeah, we spent the majority of the show so far, Steve, and I'm more of a Team Kerr, not using that terminology, but there were many positives, and Mark is right about the start to the year. I do want to drill down a little bit on last night's game and ask you about the goaltend with 8 or so minutes to go. Steph goes to the cup, and it appeared to be goaltending. They didn't call it. Were you able to challenge, or are you not able to challenge? And how do you feel about the way these things are either officiated or not officiated in the moment?
Yeah, you can't challenge a non-call on goaltending. You can challenge a called goaltending, but not one that's not called. So yeah, that was frustrating. In my mind, I think as a league, I think we can do better on those, you know, especially the ones that hit the backboard first. To me, it's really pretty easy to see with the naked eye that, you know, the ball hits the backboard and you see an immediate, you know, sort of change in direction of the ball, an unnatural movement of the ball. And that's why you see, you know, 20 guys on our bench jumping up and doing the count it sign. And but this happened to us 4 or 5 times last year, and for whatever reason, you know, that call has been difficult for NBA officials to make. Maybe it's because they got 1,000 other things to try to look at the same time. But I will say that call is frustrating because it's not a subjective one. It either happens or it doesn't. You know, every foul is kind of subjective. You can you can make your determination in either direction and make a good argument. But a goaltend is either a goaltend or it's not.
Dubs head coach Steve Kerr with us, Willard and Dibs, as he is every week here on 95.7 The Game. This was kind of a fun question that came up earlier, Steve, and I wonder how you'd answer it. So, yes, it's not reviewable, but what if it was? Would you have used your challenge in a situation where it means a bucket to tie the game with over 8 minutes to go? Like, how do you go about deciding when to use that challenge or not?
Our feeling is if something costs you 2 points, then you use the challenge, because the chances are if you don't use it in that particular case, you're not going to be able to save 2 points later on. I know the argument is keep it till the end in case something dramatic happens, but the rule has changed a little bit this year. If you win your first challenge, then you get a second one. Especially with that, if you feel really strongly about something early in the game, if it's going to be 2 points, you for sure take it.
Would you rather have no challenges at all to use, or have the league maybe take hold of correcting things like the NFL does on scoring plays and on turnovers? Or are you happy with the way it is now?
If it were up to me, I would eliminate all instant replay except for the buzzer beaters at the end of every quarter. Did a guy get a shot off or not? Because those are definitive, yes or no, and really easy to look up. But I absolutely hate all the stoppages in play. Steph Curry hits a game winner in Oklahoma City, and it takes us about 2.5 minutes to know whether it counts or not. I mean, you want to talk about letting the air out of the bag. I mean, come on. It's easy. We're giving away the excitement, the drama, the flow that makes basketball so beautiful. And I understand the intentions are pure. We're trying to get everything right. But the problem is, even with instant replay, we don't get everything right. So if I were the czar of the NBA, I would get rid of instant replay altogether, other than the buzzer beater.
Steve, I wonder if a few months ago, as Trayce Jackson-Davis is sitting there waiting for his phone to ring and you're getting through the second round, he could have imagined that before Thanksgiving he'd be guarding Nikola Jokic in a basketball game, right? Like, what'd you think of the job he did in those minutes?
He was great. One of the things we saw with Trayce right away this past summer is how advanced he was in terms of his footwork and his feel for the game. This is a guy who played 125 college games, so he actually has more experience than Moses and Kuminga. So when you look at it that way, not to mention 4 years of college practices, those guys practice 4 or 5 days a week. The body of experience and fundamentals and foundation is all there for Trayce, and so. We pictured him playing at key times this year, and as soon as we knew Draymond was out last night, it was an automatic. We plugged Trayce in and felt very confident, even if he had to go against the best player in the world.
And Looney took more than his fair share of turns against him as well, and I felt bad watching him because a couple of ticky-tack fouls limited his overall effectiveness. But what was your approach in general of trying to slow down Jokic? Was it just trying to encourage him to shoot the three, or what do you do against such a diverse guy in the low post like that?
Yeah, he's impossible to guard. So I thought Loon was amazing. I mean, he just battled him the entire game. Nikola is really crafty. He knows how to sell calls to the officials, and they bought a couple of those that were really tough on Loon, where there really wasn't much contact. But he stayed with it the entire game, made him work for everything, and stayed in the game down the stretch with those 5 fouls and made some big plays for us. So Loon is just so solid and so important to us night after night.
Steve, we noticed some good things in the final 6 or 7 minutes from Andrew Wiggins, and the fact that you stuck with him all the way through in those closing minutes. What did you see there, and is there maybe a light at the end of the tunnel there as well?
Oh, yeah. Wiggs is coming. Wiggs will be fine. I mean, it just so happens that, the struggle that he's going through right now is coming at the very beginning of the season when, everybody's paying attention, and the statistics are what they are because there's no foundation underneath it. If you go through the same thing in February, it's not nearly as big of a deal, if you're an NBA player. So, it's been a struggle out of the gates, shooting the ball and just finding his offensive rhythm. But I think Wiggs has looked great physically the last couple of games. He's playing so hard defensively. It's all going to fall into place for him because he's earning it with his defense, and he's got an 8 or 9 year track record of being a really good player in this league. So I'm not worried about Wiggs.
We've reached the Chris Paul appreciation portion of the interview because watching him is just so pleasing to the eye. But, Coach, I got to ask you, he turned it over last night. You had to have ripped him one.
Yeah, I was so mad at him for that.
Thank you. I appreciate that, Coach, for keeping it real. I mean, one turnover, that's just – first turnover in, weeks it feels like.
Incredible. I mean, I've never seen. I've been in the league, 30 plus years. I've never seen a point guard or any player with an assist to turnover ratio like this. So this is one of the key shifts to our team this year. That we talked about it all summer. We can't lead the league in turnovers this year and be number one in pace, which that was the combination last year. That's not a great combo. And so we were a little wild last year, and it caught us in some big games. And so Chris has just completely changed the dynamic on that front. We're taking care of the ball. Now, the flip side is we've got to execute a little better in the half court because our pace has slowed. So we're probably getting more half court possessions, and I think that's an area where we can make some improvement here over the next couple of weeks. Now that we finally get to practice. We literally haven't had a real practice in about 10 days.
Coach, I'm glad you brought up pace because you're right. It has slowed a lot, and I wonder if you think that it's slowed the right amount. Has it slowed too much?
I think we're still finding our offensive rhythm, and I'm not really that concerned with what the numbers are and where we stack up in the league, all that stuff. What I want is for our team to find the optimal rhythm and flow. And I think we're in the process of doing that. We've had some really good offensive games, and then we've had a few where we've struggled a little bit. But it's so early, and as I said, we've got a lot of home games coming up, which means no travel, which means practice time. I think this is a really good opportunity these next few weeks to improve our offensive rhythm.
And when you get everybody back and, hopefully Draymond is able to return from the personal challenges and GP2 is healthy and you get everybody back, are you finding that Klay Thompson has a nice little fit as a shooter with that second unit? Is that something that you're starting to experiment more with?
A little bit, yeah. It sort of depends on, how the game's going, because Moses plays with that unit as well. Klay gives us a little more punch, someone that we can kind of go to score with that group. But Moses has played so well at both ends that, I'm really inclined to give him as many minutes as the game allows. And, but there are games like last night where, it's tough sledding and so we'll get Klay out there with that group and he helps them score a little bit.
Coach, do you have any update on that in terms of are you expecting Draymond to be ready for the homestand?
Oh, yeah. Draymond's he'll be ready to go. So all good on that front.
Okay, and then also on this homestand, one of the other characteristics that's interesting, wonder what you think about it, is not the home and home, but the home and home again, or as Dibs likes to call it, the stay and play. When you play the same team in a row, twice in a row, what kind of dynamics come out of that?
Yeah, it seemed like we did those a little more often, during the bubble season or the whatever it was, the following season where we didn't have fans. It's kind of an interesting dynamic. I think it does help on the travel front. Unfortunately, we don't have these on the road this year. We only have these two at home. So, it doesn't affect our travel, but it is interesting. It's a little bit like a playoff series where you get a feel for a team one night and you make some adjustments for the next. So little different vibe.
And I think included in the homestand is more in-season tournament action, and that game at OKC, an instant classic. What do you make of these games, Steve? And is it me, or does it feel like your team is playing with a little bit extra oomph in these games, maybe wanting a trip to Vegas?
I'm a fan. I think this is going to work. I think the league has done a good job of being creative, and I'm all for it. Let's give it a shot. If it works, great. And if not, at least we were bold and attempted something different. So the game in OKC felt different. The court, obviously, is so bizarre. Felt like I was in we were playing in an international handball Olympic game or something.
Felt like the 70s to me a little bit, Steve. I mean,
yeah,
psychedelic.
or like maybe a Boise State football, field or something. It was weird, but our guys really liked it, and I think they're such competitors. All these guys. I mean, if you make the NBA, you're generally a competitor, and so you put something in front of these guys, they're going to want to win. So I like it. I think it's a good experiment.
Steve, this may be a stupid question, but do you think that that court and the fact that it was the in-season tournament, did that have anything to do with that style of game, 141 to 139? Was there some sort of different energy?
Good question. I suppose you could look at all the other games that were played that night, too. Were they all high scoring? I don't know. I didn't pay any attention. But I think it was more just the style. The two teams played, both teams really pushing it. OKC really puts a lot of pressure on you, shoots a lot of threes. And it was just one of those nights. Both teams made shots, made a ton of shots, and a wild game, but it was fun to be a part of, and obviously, Steph closing it out with that finger roll was just incredible.
Yeah, goaltending either way, or yes or no, and good thing we were able to review that one, though, right, Steve?
Yeah, I mean,
suddenly we like instant replay, huh?
The ball did go in, though,
yes.
And nothing really affected it. That was pretty plain to see from the naked eye, but. Touche. I get your point.
No, it's just funny because we all, and I love the rule book. I read it to my baby girl every night before bed. And so as we all pour over the rule, it is a little bit nebulous as to, when the ball is in the cylinder. Well, the ball was above the cylinder when he touched it, and then Giddey hits the net. And so we all become immediate rule book aficionados when we need to pour over the nuance of the association.
Yeah, I didn't know the rule, honestly. When I saw the replay and I saw Draymond touch the rim, it didn't look like he hit the ball. So, it looked like he just hit the rim. And Giddey, as you said, was touching the net at the same time. I'm standing there while they're deliberating, and I turned to the coaches and I said, I have no idea. I've never seen this before. I don't even know what the rule is.
And that's where it's good to have Draymond, because he immediately was advocating for the basket to count. And so you can just kind of lay back and let Draymond be the adjudicator.
Well, I'm always willing to do that. I do that in practice often. So he usually wins his case.
Speaking of winning your case, Coach, some hot under the collar moments on the sideline last night, which is not always your character. What was going on specifically in those moments?
Well, it had been 8 games and I didn't have a tech yet,
yeah.
So I realized I got to get back to my own pace and lock in a little bit, show some fire. Now I was upset. I thought there were some tough calls, and so big game against the defending champs on the road. We're dying to win, and sometimes I lose my mind a little bit.
I thought maybe your fantasy team lost last week or something. How's that going?
Oh no, I'm in first. Are you kidding me? I'm on a run. I'm 7-2. I'm rolling.
7-2. Impressive,
guys. You don't seem to understand. This is what I do. Okay, I coach to win. Okay,
here's how we can tell.
And win his fantasy.
Now, here's how we can tell if you've actually got a real squad, Steve. Do you have any players in the game that just started?
I do not, and that's why I'm in first.
You have a good team. Exactly right.
There it is.
Oh gosh, 7-2. I'm impressed. Almost as impressed as we are with a 6-3 start with the actual Golden State Warriors with 7 of 9 on the road. Great stuff, Coach. And thank you so much for another visit.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. We'll talk to you next week.
All right, Steve, thanks.
We definitely will. There he goes. Steve Kerr right here on Willard and Dibs every single week.